We are back on Patriots 4th and 2, the official podcast of PatsFans.com. I'm Russ Goldman. Joining me, as always, is Steve Balistrieri and Derek Havens. This episode, we're going to start our discussion about the Patriots offseason, and we're going to have the big quarterback question that was brought to us from our co-host, very good co-host, Derek Havens. So we're gonna answer the big quarterback question because we have to talk about that. We're also going to talk about Matt Patricia and him joining back with the Patriots. There's been a lot of talk about that. We will also talk about the Senior Bowl a little bit, and we're going to end talking about who do you want to win the Super Bowl. We'll end with that. But before we do anything else, let's go right to the guys. Derek, in the center square, how you doing? Been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time, but I feel like we have a lot to talk about and not a lot to talk about all at the same time. So it's an interesting time of year for sure. There's obviously the Super Bowl coming up next week, which will be exciting to just as a kind of an American, I guess, holiday, so to speak. And then, with the Senior Bowl going on, which has a lot of importance, for this draft class, given the limitations of everything going on virus-wise. And then, obviously, the quarterbacks. There's so much movement on the quarterback front, I think, around the league. It's going to be fascinating. Even if it doesn't directly affect the Patriots, I think a lot of it, there could be a lot of dominoes to fall that will just make it kind of an interesting offseason watch if you're into that. So
okay, before I go to Steve, I have to share this from Claire because I knew she would chime in. Hi guys, good to see you, Claire. I miss you, Claire. I know it's been a while since we've done a show, so thank you for joining us. Steve, how you doing?
I'm doing well, and thank you, Miss Moneypenny, for your message this morning. She sent me a message this morning.
Did she?
Yes. So I thank Claire for that. I'm doing better. I was laid up all last week, but stuff happens. So we're back mobile again, semi-mobile, and hey, it's getting to be my favorite time of year where you start talking about the draft and draft classes and guys down at the Senior Bowl, and I love this time of year. I know Derek does too.
Oh, yep. Good. And we're going to talk about the Senior Bowl in just a bit. But I think we should really start by talking about Matt Patricia. And I'm going to get us going because I've seen a lot of talk about this, a lot of negative talk, Derek. And I'm going to just share my thoughts on this because I don't
negative
get
in Boston.
Yeah, really? I know, shocker. But
hard to believe.
My thoughts on Patricia coming back is why not? Again, it's someone that Belichick trusts. Why not have someone back here that knows the system and that can help Belichick? Again, this goes back to Parcells and Parcells bringing in Belichick. I mean, there's a tradition here. So why not bring him back? Again, the Patriots have done this before. They brought back assistants, obviously Josh McDaniels. They've done this. Why not bring him back? I don't think there's anything that I don't understand why there's outrage. And I've seen the outrage of bringing him back. Derek, why is there outrage on bringing back Matt Patricia? I don't get it.
Well, I think just from a fan perspective, when you're talking about Matt Patricia's tenure here, after he left for Detroit, which was an absolute dumpster fire, but that's neither here nor there. I would say with Patricia, after Brian Flores took over, it seemed like the defense stopped playing as much on their heels and really started playing more on their toes, and they got more aggressive. And obviously, I know, and we all know that they did. And Belichick is the one who's in control of a lot of things throughout the team, especially defensively. But I felt as much that with the transition from Patricia to Flores, I thought the defense improved and I liked their style more. I thought they were better utilized. And so for me, as far as Patricia goes, I just feel like a lot of people were frustrated because they just didn't want, him coming back, and with how things ended and things of that nature. And I wonder how it affects Gerard Mayo and Steve Belichick too. And that's kind of a subtopic of this. But it seems like, the initial reaction was people thought that he was going to come back and take over as a defensive coordinator. It seems we don't really know a whole lot as of yet, but it seems like he might be doing more of like a head coaching assistant type role. Someone mentioned, maybe a Mike Lombardi type role. Something like that, I feel, much better about. As far as the coaching staff, I would rather give it to a guy like Gerard Mayo and continue to work with some of these younger coaches and have it go in directions. I know what Matt Patricia brings to the table from a coach standpoint. I would, if you want to your point, Russ, if you want it to be someone in the room that Belichick trusts, that's fine. But to me, I'd rather have him more in the background than someone up on the coaching staff, and that's where I think we're heading anyway.
Okay, Derek, but again, I'm looking at a parallel. Like I said, Parcells and Belichick were the Patriots. He brought Belichick back. Now, Belichick's role wasn't defensive coordinator when he came back. He was just, again, a piece of the puzzle, and I think that's what Matt Patricia is going to be, a confidant. And I don't see the downside of that. Steve, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, as long as, we're talking in the realm of like how Bill Belichick and Mike Lombardi worked a couple of years ago when Lombardi came back to the Patriots, I think that would be a perfect role because he knows the system, he knows the team, he knows many of the players. And, I don't think there's a downside to that part. As long as it's not going to interfere with, the coaching, I guess, development of guys like Steve Belichick and Gerard Mayo, because I think that would be a big negative.
Yeah, and you're talking about positional coaching and technique and fundamentals. I think that's fine. I believe he's certainly qualified to do things like that. To me, it's more the in-game stuff that I just really have no business in because I want no part of from him. But
Derek, don't you think Patricia could actually help Steve Belichick?
What is Patricia really? Maybe, but what has he really done to prove that he can do that though? Like, what has he? What has he?
He's
proven?
Now been a head coach, so he's going to look through a different lens.
And he failed miserably.
Right, but maybe he's learned from that.
I'm sure he has.
He can pass that along.
I'm sure he has, and I think that I'm sure that he has learned a ton.
He was the defensive coordinator for quite a few years here.
Sure,
and I'm sure, coming in with a fresh perspective, he might see things that Steve Belichick and Gerard
That's my point.
Doing.
Steve's making my point.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
He could see small things that maybe and how they're going about practice or something that, hey, there might be a better way to do it. And if that's the case, by all means. I mean, I just don't want him calling the plays during the games. I think you have two younger coaches, not younger guys, so to speak, but younger coaches, and Steve Belichick and Gerard Mayo. And I think it's important for their development to maintain that because they're going to get better at it. I believe they will.
Right. I'm going to share this comment. What do you guys make of this? It's from Joel Shapiro 20. Patricia works in case another defensive coach leaves. He provides depth for now. Steve, what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Because you got to remember, he was with the team for quite a while. He started actually on the offensive side of the ball.
Right.
When he first started with the Patriots, he was an offensive coach, and then he moved to defense, and he worked a couple of different jobs there, eventually becoming the coordinator. So, yeah, if he needs, again, like they used Brett Bielema a couple of years ago, his first year here. We saw Brett Bielema working with tight ends. We saw him working with the defensive line. We saw him working with the linebackers. I mean, if they need help on a certain day at a certain position, Patricia has the experience in this, in this system where he can jump right in and help these guys out. And
I think the more help Belichick can get, because the three of us, I'm sure, agree that we know the Belichick system overall philosophies work. As long as he has the right pieces in place. Okay. And Patricia knows how he wants to get things done. He knows Bill well enough to help implement those things. And with the loss of Caserio, which I think is huge, and I think that's where Patricia can really lend a hand doing some of the things like Steve just mentioned. And to me, Russ, I don't really understand the pushback, and that's why I was so worried about Josh leaving too. And I'm really glad it looks like he's kind of locked in and staying because, I'm really worried about Belichick being spread as thin as he is. And, with Josh in place on the offense, And, I know some people don't think I know obviously we all know the offense sucked last year, but I don't think that was really on Josh as much more as who the players were on the field. And with Josh at the helm on the offense, Belichick doesn't have to worry about that side of the ball as much. He can check in. Hey, Josh, what are you thinking here? Hey, maybe run more. Hey, make sure we get inside field goal range here. Watch the clock, things like that. But Belichick can really kind of focus more on his young defensive coaches. And I think that comment proves is a great point too. Maybe it does pad you as a little bit of insurance because we know that the Patriots have been cherry-picked by all these different teams for the last, decade plus. And it hurts after a while. It really can hurt you. And I think right now it hurts Bill the most, especially as he gets up there in age. But even forget the age factor, just as he's only one person, and you need guys to implement the philosophy, and you need guys to buy in to your system.
But
and
this goes back to having Patricia back. That's why I don't see the downside. This is a good thing.
I think the line is thin, Russ, because I agree with you, and I think we're all kind of in agreement there. But I think the line is really thin. People were more against it, thinking he was going to be the defensive coordinator. Whereas, like Steve and I, we don't want him calling plays. I don't want him in that part. But if you're telling me he's going to help, maybe see some things that Steve and Gerard don't see. Maybe he can help in practice with techniques or drills. Right. Maybe he can help Belichick behind the scenes, evaluating their own players, evaluating the teams coming up, etc. I think Patricia has value in that role.
And if he's up in the booth during the games, he might see something that the opposition is doing that he, can get in the defensive coordinator.
Exactly.
And I think
say, hey, they're starting to do this, and I'm saying this, and maybe we can attack it by doing this.
See, I don't think this is going to be an Ernie Adams role because I've heard that suggestion. I think this is kind of a hybrid.
No, and like Nick Caserio during
a Nick Caserio role, right?
It could during training camp on the field, helping out all over the place. So if that's the case, all for it.
Okay. And I want to share this comment because, Derek, you already brought up Caserio, and I find this interesting. I want to get your view on this. This is from our friend here. Will Nick Caserio regret going to the Texans? This is a great question because I'm thinking he might.
Yeah, I mean, reportedly, he's received somewhere in the $6 million annual salary range, which is a lot of money to turn down. And we know that Caserio's wanted to, kind of have his control with another team for some time. And certainly the Texans have been after him for several years now. We've talked about this for 3-4 years in a row. But it's hard to imagine that, I mean, he's got his hands full. That Houston situation, we could do a whole hour show on just that from our perspective, because you got Cal McNair, who inherited the team from his father, Bob, and he seems to just screw everything up. You got Jack Easterby, who I'm not convinced won't own the team by the time the show's done recording because he has way too much power there. They have one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, and a young superstar who's 25 years young, and Deshaun Watson, who apparently doesn't give a crap what head coach they hire, whether it's someone who's older but really experienced, like the guy they just did, or whether it was Eric Bellamy, or for the Chiefs. It didn't matter. He just wants out, and now they have a situation on their hands because what is Caserio going to do? They're $20 million over the cap. They were already talking about releasing J.J. Watt, because he would give them $18 million of that back, and he's one of the staples for that city, for that franchise. They have no first round pick, no second round pick. They're over the cap. Their superstar quarterback wants out. They got a roster full of holes. I mean, it's a total nightmare. I don't know what he's going to do. I hope the money's worth it, and I hope he does well because I root, because he's a good guy, and I wish he could have stayed here. But I do think he's going to have some regrets because I think the fan base is, to say they're restless would be an understatement. And I think there's a lot of people on that, there's a lot of people on that hot seat. You're going to be walking around pins and needles in that facility. I don't see how he would not regret it, at least a little bit, aside from maybe that payday he got.
Okay. How about you, Steve?
Well, I'm going to preface this by saying I think he's going to regret it a whole heck of a lot if the ownership doesn't get rid of his buddy, Jack Easterby, because everything that's coming out of Houston is Easterby is just, he's trying to, become the boss in the castle. This is it reads like Game of Thrones. I mean, I know him and Nick Caserio were very close in New England, but everything I'm seeing and again, I don't know whether it's all true or not, but if half of what they're saying is true about Easterby, he's a snake in the grass, and he's only going to just submarine everything. And apparently, from what we're hearing, he has the owner's ear, pocket. Yep. He has him by the belt buckle, and he's leading him around. So, but he's alienated everyone. He's alienated the players. He alienated the coach. So, and God help him if they release J.J. Watt.
Yeah, I don't know what, and that was just something that I heard floating around because they are $20 million over the cap or whatever the exact number is.
Yeah, they'd have to figure out a way that they keep Mr. Watt around, because if they release him, even in, you can sit there and make the case for the numbers, and you have to rebuild. That fan base won't accept that.
No. I mean, I would say right now the Texans, boiled down to one word, is just toxic. They have a toxic environment from head to toe with that organization, and it's an absolute mess, and now with the Deshaun Watson stuff, I mean, I know we're going to get to the quarterbacks in a second, but that's a big domino to fall around the league, and there's a lot of quarterback needy teams, and there seems to be a lot of veteran quarterbacks coming available. I know we're going to talk about that soon.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about it right now, my friend, right to it. It's the big quarterback question. Which direction do you guys want to go? Now, we could start here because there's been talk. Derek, you've already talked about Deshaun Watson. I still don't think that's realistic. I really don't. And I think we're doing ourselves a disservice if we focus on it. This one isn't. This one is realistic. But I'm going to ask you, do you guys actually want this guy? Steve, over to you. Do you want Matt Stafford? Would you want the Patriots to make a move for Matt Stafford?
Well, I mean, if you go back, other than the 20 years prior to this past season, Stafford's a better quarterback than they've had in a very long time, other than Tom Brady. Do I want Stafford at this point?
He'll be 33
in February.
So he still has about 5 really good years left if he can stay healthy, which he's been banged up quite a bit.
Yes.
He hasn't really missed games, though. Besides like 1 year, he hasn't really missed too many games.
No, he's tough. He's hung in there, but he's been banged up. He's been banged up a lot, and he's played through it, which shows you he's got a lot of guts. But I don't know if I want Matt Stafford at this point. I think he would be extremely motivated. I think he'd probably love being matched up with a guy like Josh McDaniels.
Okay.
But at the same time, you're going to inherit a pretty large salary. So I
think this hinders you more than helps you, and that's where I'm going to go on.
Well,
this.
I'm not going to say hinders you more than helps you, because let's face it, the quarterback situation last year was not good.
No, I'm talking about long-term, Steve. If my long-term plan is to rebuild, this to me stops the rebuild, Derek.
Yeah, it puts you back in the mix again.
It does.
Because he can give you 5 or 6 really good.
He could,
seasons.
Right.
So at that point, now you just have to restock, but now you just lost, $25 million in salary cap space. So that's
I'm not even worried about the salary cap space. To me, it's about the draft capital. And you go back to Cam Newton last year, and my main reason for not wanting Newton, which I've said many times, was I just didn't think they were quarterback away. And I say the same thing about Stafford too. I think that's the kind of route they'll go, where Belichick will sign some kind of veteran and maybe draft and develop a guy, and then maybe it buys you a little time at the quarterback position while you can build up the roster. Yes, I do think that's going to go, but Stafford, the asking price is going to be, a first round, and I bet you it's going to come out to be like a first and a third, or a first and a fourth, something like that.
And that's ridiculous for the Patriots. That's ridiculous.
It's just going to be tough, because I think a team like Indianapolis, or if the 49ers move on from Jimmy Garoppolo, like that, to me, those two teams, like that makes sense to me, because they're closer. They do need a they do need a quarterback. And I don't know, for Stafford, look, he's a great player. He's fun to watch. He's tough as nails, but I just feel like if you're going to give up that 15th overall pick for a guy who's going to be 33, again, he's going to give you several years, but you have so many holes to fill. I just think, if you're talking about someone like a Deshaun Watson, even though that's pie in the sky, okay, I understand that. I'll give up 3 first-round draft picks for Deshaun Watson yesterday. That's fine. He's 25 years old. I'll do that all day long. But
disagree.
Yeah, well, we can disagree on that, and we can get to that. But I feel like with it's a Stafford, it's a little bit of a different situation because I do think there are just there's going to be a lot of teams that are calling on him. And from what I've read, it seems like there's already about a third of the league has made calls to the Lions about Stafford.
Yeah, I'm a big pass on this, and I'm going to share some of the comments because they kind of go with why I'm a pass. First of all, this is Kevin O'Malley. Kevin, I'm right there with you. Draft a quarterback. I'm there with you. It's the rebuild. Draft a quarterback. Now, can you do both? Yes, you can, but I think the price tag would hurt you. No, with Stafford, no, because you'd have to give up too much. So, again, for me, this is a no. Our friend Chris chimes in no for Stafford for me, and this is followed up by this, and this is what I want to get at. Derek, the Patriots have too many needs that need filling. This goes to you. They're more than a quarterback away. Why would you do this?
Yeah, I mean, it's just tough. I mean, you look at what they need to do on offense and with the positions they need to fill there. I do think I've been kind of consistent on this, and this is how I'm leaning still, at least for right now. In late January, I think they're going to go with more of an aggressive approach on the free agent market on offense, and maybe go with maybe more younger players on defense. That's kind of where I'm leaning towards, but I guess we'll see. Yep. I do think that I just feel like it makes more sense for a team that has a little bit more in place. Indy seems like the no-brainer. Yeah. That one seems like it's a layup. Now whether they're going to give up their first round pick for him is a different story. I mean, I think they just did that. Wasn't it last year for DeForest Buckner from the 49ers? And obviously that was a home run. He's a great player and he made some great improvements for that team and they have some nice pieces there. But, are they going to do it again back-to-back years, giving up a first? I don't know. That's up to Chris Ballard. So the general manager there. So it's going to be an interesting conversation. But, the one that's really pissing me off is the Garoppolo thing. I'm going to be honest. I do not understand.
Ticking you off?
I don't understand the obsession with bringing this guy back. I don't get it.
Steve's shaking his head too.
I don't. I like Jimmy when he was here.
Yeah, I do too.
But the bottom line is, I don't want him. I don't want the Patriots to spend any capital on him.
Okay, is it injury related or does it go beyond that?
It's injury related. And go back to Bill Belichick. What does he tell? When he meets these young guys at the Senior Bowl, and we'll talk about that. Yep. Availability is even more important than, ability. Because if you're always hurt, it doesn't matter how good you are.
Yep.
Can we just talk about this? Last 4 years with the 49ers, he played 6 games this year. He had a full season in 2019. He played 3 games in 2018, 6 games in 2017. Those are his 4 seasons with the 49ers.
I know.
Not to mention he was hurt when he was here. He's also 29 years old, so he's not really just like this young kid anymore. On paper, if you're saying in a bubble, in a vacuum, okay, you're Garoppolo back. He knows the system. We know it can work here. That's great. The game's not played in paper. It's not played in a vacuum. Okay, he has to be able to stay healthy. Steve's 100% right.
Well, this is our very good friend Robert Hilberg, who's written some fantastic books. By the way, we need to get him on the show.
We've been supposed to have him on the podcast for.
Yes. And if you're listening, we will get you on the podcast. Can Jimmy stay healthy? That's the question.
I mean, he's proven he can. And again, I like him. I think again, if he's healthy, that's great. But again, if he's healthy is a huge question. And by the way, the 49ers would not be getting rid of him if they thought they could rely on him. And that's why the rumors.
Derek, that's a red flag. It's a red flag.
Of course it's a red flag because I don't think that they're just going to do what the Lions are doing. And they're not going to, the 49ers are not going to do what the Lions are doing. And they're not going to be like, okay, Garoppolo's on the open market. I think that they are going to do the same thing the Rams are going to do. And they're going to say, this is our guy, but they're keeping their antennas up because they're going to be looking around for an upgrade at that position. And if Deshaun Watson or Matt Stafford go to the 49ers and Garoppolo's available, do I think Bill will call? Yes, because I think that he can get him for a cheap draft pick and he knows the system. And I think I can see it coming like a bad car accident. You can just see it coming. And I just feel like everyone just keeps saying, and everyone's probably too strong, but I hear this on on 98.5 WEEI, all over the Twitter, the Patriots Twitter sphere. It's all over there, and I just don't understand it because he's always hurt. Why would you want to bring in a guy that's not reliable? It's nothing personal against him. He just can't stay healthy.
Well, there are agendas why they want him back.
Of course,
that have nothing to do with how he could play with the Patriots. I think we all know that, right? We all know that.
Wait, so Steve, why wouldn't you give up multiple first-round picks for Deshaun Watson?
I don't.
No,
I'm
prefacing this.
I think he's very talented, but you look at they had a lot of weapons around him, and that offense at times just blew you away.
Yeah.
But you look overall where they ranked in his years there, they weren't that great.
Well, Bill O'Brien really struggled.
And again, I mean, if they played against the Patriots 16 times, he'd rewrite the record book, as we all know. But my problem with him is, okay, he's soured on the Texans. What makes you think he ain't going to sour on New England?
Well, I mean, he has a no trade clause. So if he's not going to be, he's not coming in. If they move him, he's not going to go anywhere he doesn't want to go.
And that's why it's pie in the sky, because he's not going to come to play for the Patriots.
My fear is that he goes to either the Jets or the Dolphins, because your division then becomes incredibly more difficult. And you already have the Bills who are rising. I thought the Dolphins made some really strong steps here. The Jets are a mess, and I don't really understand why there are reports saying that he would prefer the Jets. That seems agenda-driven to me, but that's really aside from the point that, bringing him in here when he lights you up every single time he plays, you have to play him twice. That would be a nightmare scenario for the Patriots.
Okay. One very quick comment on the Buffalo Bills. Great season from Josh Allen. Not ready for prime time, Derek. I think you'll agree with that. Not ready for prime time.
Yeah, I mean,
I think their coaching staff laid a huge egg.
Yeah, Sean McDermott, who I like, was really unimpressive in that game. I thought he played tentative. You
said defensively, Steve. It was horrific.
And offensively, because, I wrote about this before the game, that I thought, and when you're looking at the matchups, if I'm, Brian Daboll, I'm feeding the ball to Cole Beasley.
Absolutely. You're 100% right.
Even
if he's not 100%, you just get him the ball.
Against that rookie slot corner. Yep. And they would be moving the sticks all game long, and then they'd have to give that guy some help, and then it's going to open up other things. Daboll decided we have to push the ball down the field all game long, whether that was Daboll or Allen just ignoring what the play call was. I don't know, but defensively, that's on the coaching staff.
Well,
you give those guys an 8-yard cushion all game long. Nobody's chipping Kelsey. And you're giving, the arm breaker, an 8-yard cushion all game long. They're going to eat you alive. And I nothing against the Bills players, who I think are outstanding, but that coaching staff laid a huge egg. Egg. I thought they were going to give the Chiefs a really tough game.
And what? I thought that
wasn't even close.
There's a couple of things to go off of that, and I would say that the Bills looked like Russ said, not ready for prime time. They tried to fight fire with fire, pushing the ball down the field to match what Kansas City was going to do on the other side. And Josh Allen, as much as he's improved, his biggest I'm trying to think of what I'm like restraint right now or handicap for him is that he's trying to hit a home run on every single play.
That's right. He's targeting Diggs so much.
He has to learn.
And the Chiefs didn't do that.
Yeah.
The Chiefs were throwing those, 2 or 3 yard passes. Yeah. They weren't airing the ball. They only threw deep a few times.
He has to learn how to, if nothing's there, he has to learn to just live for another play. And he hasn't really figured that out yet. Although I would say he's had an incredible season. They also don't really have a running game. They got really one-sided. There was just a lot of mistakes made from them at that point. And I mean, if we want to talk about one game, look at the other game too. Talk about mistakes being made in that Packers-Bucks game. I mean, Tom Brady is incredible in the first half, dropping dimes all over the field, moving the ball on third down. I'm sitting there watching the game. I'm sitting here being like, wow, the Bucks have really outplayed the Packers with only a couple seconds to go at halftime. It's only 14-10. and I'm watching the game with my friend who's a Packers fan, and I say, honestly, all things considered, you should be pretty happy about it being 14-10. Of course, a couple seconds later, then Brady hits Miller for a dime down the sideline, and then that totally changed the game right there. And then even when Brady throws picks in the second half, the Packers couldn't capitalize on anything there. I think they got 6 points off 3 Brady turnovers.
Yep.
I thought Matt LaFleur really made a lot of head coaching mistakes in that game, and it was a rough go.
And all I've heard is the excuse machine going on and on. It's everybody except the quarterback,
Aaron Rodgers,
the greatest of all time, and everyone keeps trying to push that narrative. His decision making cost them that football game. You can say all you want about Matt LaFleur and that defense. Yeah, they crapped the bed at the end of the half. There's absolutely no doubt. But that defense that everyone's saying, the defense let Aaron Rodgers down again.
Oh no,
they gave him 3 turnovers in the second half, and he turned it into how many points? 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there was a
third and goal from the 8-yard line. He had about 15 yards to run. If he runs, even if he gets hit at the 2, they're going for it on 4th down.
Absolutely.
You know they're going for it. But he wanted to do the Aaron Rodgers thing and step back and throw a dime between 3 defenders. And guess what? It didn't work. Now LaFleur kind of spit the bit. And he said, well, we're going to kick the field goal, try to get the ball back.
Which was such a dumb decision. I can't even get over that decision. It makes no sense.
And that's what I'm talking about. Decision-making. Aaron Rodgers, I'm sorry. I'm not buying this crap that's, he's the greatest, talented quarterback. His decision-making craps the bed every big game.
Absolutely.
And this game is another one. His decision-making, if he tries to, we know how mobile he is.
Yeah, his reputation took a hit.
His living. If he runs that ball, at the minimum, he's at the 3-yard line, probably the 2, possibly even a touchdown. If they're at the 2-yard line,
the Packers with Rodgers have criminally underperformed so many years now. It's crazy. And I totally get it. Rodgers has totally skated in this conversation, Steve. And again, it always is. It's everybody else, but not me. He's wiped his hands clean. But he made a lot of big mistakes in that half. And it comes down to some of it's just timing too. People will point to Brady's interceptions. A lot of them were deep into Packers territory at that point.
All 3 of them were.
Yeah, you don't see Brady will make mistakes in big games, okay? But the thing is, he doesn't make mistakes when they're going to kill you. They're not in spots where they're going to hurt you. It's always like he comes through when he needs to in the clutch, like he did at the end of the first half. And I'm sure this conversation is just eating Russ alive, and I love every second of it. But
no, it's not. It's not, Derek. But I'm ready to transition to another topic.
Of course you are.
And let's go ahead and do it, Derek, because this is actually a topic you wanted to talk about. And we're not done talking about Brady because we're going to talk about the Super Bowl. I want about 15 minutes to talk about that. So I'll give us about 10 minutes to talk about the Senior Bowl. So, Derek, what are your thoughts so far in dealing with the Senior Bowl? What have you taken from it? Again, I haven't followed any of it. So share me your thoughts.
Well, we can just have a couple minutes on this, and there'll be a lot more to evaluate, as it kind of progresses a little bit more. But right now with the Senior Bowl, this is the biggest in terms of a scouting perspective. After the college season, this is the biggest thing this offseason because the combine is virtual. I mean, that's just it's all going to come down to pro days. You're actually able to sit down in front of these guys, interview them. Obviously that. Jim Nagy, who kind of organizes the whole Senior Bowl, he mentioned the other day that they spent $12,000 on plexiglass alone, just so that these guys can sit in front because you can evaluate tape all you want and watch a guy from a distance, but without really talking to somebody, you really don't know what kind of person they are, how smart they are, things like that, and how it would work in your organization. I'm not just talking for the Patriots; I'm talking all 32 teams. But one name that I wanted to kind of bring up, who's really taking advantage of a great opportunity. And Russ, you brought him up on our last show, was Mac Jones from Alabama.
Yeah.
Who actually did say he did mention, I forget, there was one other team, but he did mention that he sat with Patriots personnel, and I thought that was interesting. He said that they asked a lot of great questions, and he was, he's a fan of the organization and all that team speak BS. But, I think he is really, really taking advantage of a unique situation to put him in that conversation of the quarterbacks. We've talked about all these high-profile quarterbacks coming out, and Mac Jones has been that fifth guy for most of the discussions. But I think he's really putting his name in there as, hey, just because I had all these guys around me, I can still kind of sling it too. And this is a good opportunity for him to work with different guys. And, I think his draft position is going to be fascinating to me. Because we talked about all the quarterback needy teams as we're talking about the big quarterback question, right? You have all these young quarterbacks. It's going to be interesting to see how different teams kind of rank them and slot them. And Mac Jones, I think, has really, really helped himself this week. He's been impressive. And I know that a lot of people have kind of talked about him, where he's going to go. I think, Russ, you asked me, did I think 15 was too high? I did think 15 was too high. It doesn't seem like that's going to be the case anymore. Mel Kiper from ESPN had his latest mock draft. I think it might have been his first one of the season, had the Patriots taking Mac Jones at 15.
Okay, very interesting. Steve, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, overall on the Senior Bowl, I haven't seen a ton because I've been busy doing other things, but I've caught a little bit of it. And just from a local standpoint, it was really cool to see a guy I covered for 3 years in high school.
Yep.
Melifonwu. He's filled his frame out. I remember telling you guys about him when he was in high school at Grafton High. And, he's got the frame and he's filled out. He played at Syracuse, not a traditional football power, but the boy can play.
What?
That kid, and he's a great kid too. He's his whole family. They're really great people. It's good to see him out there now. I hear people putting a second round draft. You're
kidding me, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's great to see. And if he, like I said, I got to cover him. He's a tremendous athlete. He's actually a better football player than his older brother was, I think.
Who spent time with the Patriots, so it wouldn't surprise me if they went that route. I don't know about a second round pick, but
right. That's why I don't see him coming to New England.
Yeah.
But just from a local standpoint, it's
a good
cool
story
to see. Yeah, it's cool to see because again, he's a local kid. Played for a small high school. Grafton High isn't huge.
Yep.
Did Obi play at Grafton too?
Yep.
His brother? Okay.
Yep. Yep. Obi, I covered Obi as well, and And
I'm gonna share a couple comments. Let's see. Do you think Mac Jones has maybe moved up due to his ability or possibility more from hype? He's been talked into a higher pick.
I don't think it's necessarily hype. Obviously, his performance in the college playoffs certainly didn't hurt him. He has a lot of great tools. He did measure in a little small, I think around 6'2", but we've seen that height doesn't really matter as much as it used to be. But, he's not really the new age style, quarterback that is, mobile as well as, he's a pocket passer. He has great touch on the ball. He has great anticipation. I think that behind the scenes, working with teams on, their whiteboards, dialing up plays, I'd be kind of curious to see, like what that was like. And, I was actually talking about this with some people on Twitter earlier today, and I think it's worth noting. I think this offseason, given the restrictions of the virus, no combine, et cetera, I think coaches in the NFL and coaches in the college, those relationships I think are going to be heavily relied upon.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I know that the Patriots have drafted several Alabama players. Some have worked out, some haven't. But I feel like if Mac Jones, if Phil wants a really good look at Mac Jones, he doesn't have to go very far because one of his closest friends, Nick Saban, will have a pretty strong, insight for him. So that to me will be, I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that conversation. And obviously Belichick has a lot of relationships with many college coaches, but Saban to me obviously is the kind of the cream of the crop when you're talking about that player pool that they kind of turn out every year.
Absolutely. All right. I'm just going to share one more comment.
Well,
Steve, I'm curious your view on this.
The BC tight end showed well at the Senior Bowl. I think I'd agree with that. He did show well, just from what I've seen on Twitter. I mean, I haven't watched it, however, but I think he showed up real well. I just don't think they're going to draft him.
Okay.
But going back to Mac Jones, what Claire asked, I don't think it was hype at all. I mean, granted, he had tremendous weapons all around him in Alabama, but you know what? When they got in big games, he made big time throws, and he sees the field extremely well. For a college quarterback with only 1 year, he obviously did his homework. He worked out in practice because he sees the entire field. And we've seen it in several of those big games. His primary guy wasn't open. He'd start scanning the field, and he'd find that second and third guy. Granted, they were all getting open, but he makes really good throws with the football. I can't remember too many throws that we saw him make all season long that were way off the mark.
That's a good point. It's a good point.
They run a pro-style offense at Alabama too. Sorry, Russ. They run a pro-style offense.
Yeah.
And so it's different though. It's tough. Again, it's a unique situation for him because guys like Zach Wilson of BYU and Trey Lance of North Dakota State and Justin Fields, they can't compete at the Senior Bowl because they're underclassmen. And while some of those guys may have, some different physical, gifts, and I'd say physically they're all better athletes and probably possess more physically gifted tools. Mac Jones has had, he fought and he climbed, up that depth chart. He hung in there. He took advantage of his opportunities. He looked good in big moments, a la the national championship game. Again, he has great tools to work with. That's why I think for this situation, for the Senior Bowl, I think it just only means his stock's going to go higher. And look, if the Patriots went that route at 15, hypothetically, that would be a great situation. If you were to bring in a veteran quarterback, and I don't care which one it is, just someone, I'm not saying trading for anyone, just say Belichick brought in Ryan Fitzpatrick like Steve wanted to, and they draft Mac Jones at 15. Well, maybe you let Mac Jones sit for a year or two, and then you turn the keys over to him. I would say the same goes for a team like Pittsburgh. Maybe they draft Mac Jones and he sits behind Ben for 1 or 2 more years. That situation to me seems like a good one for him to be in. And I kind of think that Mac Jones, well, I don't think he'll be a top 10 pick. I do think that conversation can start really anywhere between kind of 11 and 25, 26. And that's where his range will be, I think.
Okay. Good stuff, guys. All right. It's time to go there. It's time to talk about the Super Bowls. Derek cannot wait. We decided we were going to end the show by talking about this. I guess I have to go first. I have to go first on this, okay?
Go ahead. I'm going to sit back and relax.
Because I have to explain. So who do I want to win the Super Bowl? Okay. To paint the picture, I have to tell you what was going on in the Goldman household for the championship games, the NFC championship game. More important. And there's Mr. Bond. Okay. So my entire family, including my son Brady, wanted Aaron Rodgers to win. Yes.
Oh, that's gross.
Okay. So reason being is that we are Patriots first. Even though I named my son Brady, and Brady actually did not want Tom Brady to win with another team. Okay, so that's where the platform begins. Now that everything has worked out to you have the Patriots versus the Chiefs. We're all in on Tom Brady.
There we go.
We want the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win because we don't want Patrick Mahomes and Fat Andy Reid to win back-to-back Super Bowls. So we are being vindictive. We are actually I wouldn't say we're on the Tom Brady bandwagon. This is an anti-Chiefs victory for us, the Goldman family. We want the Chiefs to lose. This is about the Chiefs losing more than the Buccaneers winning. Over to you, Derek.
I would just say this. I understand why people are torn on Brady, on the whole situation, because if you're a fan, it's complicated. I struggle with it. I was rooting for him to win, but it was like, oh well, if he loses, at least he won't win in a Buccaneers uniform. I don't have to look at that highlight for the rest of my days. But I would say this: he's done so much for the Patriots over 20 years. How do you not root for him? I mean, how do you not root for him to succeed? And especially for a guy like Aaron Rodgers, too. It's just like, come on, what are we doing here? And plus, Russ, by the way, I mean, it's not – you say your team first. Oh, I get that. But it's not like Brady said, F off, I'm going to Tampa Bay. It wasn't really that clean and neat. He was pushed out the door. We know
the reason. Again, this has more to do with the New England Patriots than it does Tom Brady. But the way that I'm wired is that for me, it's still, even though I blame the Patriots for the way they handled it, it's not that I blame Tom Brady for it. It's just that I'm not gonna support him in another uniform. But I am now for one game. One game, just because, and again, I think Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in football. I cannot stand watching him after they score touchdowns. I can't stand that team.
I think he's electric to watch. It's his
no.
fiance and brother I can't stand, but he's electric.
No, he's electric. That's fine. I don't like everything that goes along with the attitude. I'm talking about, like you said, the family. The family with the whole thing with being up here, and I can't stand Andy Reid. But I
That's such
love
a weird hill to die on, Russ. I'm gonna start calling you Auntie Ann, because like the pretzel place inside the malls. The way you're twisting yourself into a pretzel right now for this Brady conversation.
No. In all seriousness, and
you don't like Andy Reid?
No,
I
don't
like Chumley. You don't like Chumley?
No.
Tennessee Tuxedo?
But in all seriousness, I actually really, I think Patrick Mahomes is a fantastic quarterback. One, for a selfish reason, I don't want them to win back-to-back.
I don't like his supporting cast.
And two, honestly, his supporting cast too, and again, I cannot stand Tyreek Hill. I don't like Kelsey. I just don't like the way that this team presents themselves. I just don't. So it to me is the anti-Patriots. They are Showtime, as I think Chris, our friend in England, said. And I'm a Patriots fan. I'm a Celtics fan. I didn't like Showtime. I didn't like the LA Lakers Showtime. I liked the Patriots. I liked the Celtics.
Brady never showed any enthusiasm when he was winning on the sidelines. That's
fine. He did. No, he did.
He didn't scream and cheer when he threw a touchdown pass. That's okay. I mean, really, what are we doing here? I don't like Andy Reid.
The bottom line is this: I don't understand how anyone can be upset, cheering for Tom Brady when the Patriots aren't in it. When they come to Foxborough next year, I'm hoping Tom throws 3 picks because we want the Patriots to win.
Yeah.
But when he's not playing New England, I'm rooting for him to throw 5 touchdowns in every game.
Okay.
Because we cheered for him for 20 years, and now all of a sudden, you're dead to us because you're not wearing those god-awful all-blue uniforms this year, which is a story for another time. But, you talk about the difference one guy can make for a team, and everyone says, wins aren't a quarterback stat. But, everyone fills you in, Brady's record against Aaron Rodgers is this.
Right.
Peyton Manning had one head-to-head, but wait a minute, wins on a quarterback stat, right?
Yeah, it's funny how that works.
But if it's not going to be easy, but if Brady throws, this is an amazing stat. If Brady throws 3 touchdowns in the Super Bowl, he will have broken Tampa Bay's 44-year postseason record as a team for touchdown passes.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
In one season, he will break the record that they've, as a team, they've only thrown 10 touchdown passes.
Okay. Yeah, I would say you could see it the last couple weeks, Tampa kind of building, and they've really started to buy in. You talk about the intangible qualities that he brings, and they're all in, and it's going to be I think it's going to be a very interesting game. Yep. The Chiefs have a ton of offensive firepower and speed. Defensively, they're playing better. And I love watching Tyrann Mathieu on that defense play. And with the Buccaneers, their front 7 is so fast. It's just they're big, they're physical. It's a really interesting matchup from a personnel standpoint. Yep. And I think it's going to be a very, very good game.
Okay. Coming up next, we're going to predict the Super Bowl. Okay, guys, to end the show, let's predict the Super Bowl. We probably won't have a show before that, so why don't we do our predictions now? And I just want to clarify one last time that me wanting the Patriots to win really is because I just don't want the Chiefs to win. And I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. I still think Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in football. I just don't want him to win another one, and I just don't. That's just me. Just me. Anyways, I'm going for a Tampa Bay victory. I'm going 31-27 to the Buccaneers.
I actually was going to pick the same score if the Buccaneers win. However, I think it's going to be similar to the game they played this year, down to the score. I think the Chiefs are going to win this one 27-24. I just feel like they have so much going for them, and they've kind of taken they're in the driver's seat of the modern day NFL in terms of how teams are built and how they want to play. They're going to need some big mistakes. The Buccaneers are going to need some Chiefs mistakes to kind of capitalize on. I do think, like I said a second ago before the break, I feel as if the big matchup's going to be, how does Tampa Bay deal with Kansas City's speed? Because, again, you have a lot of physical guys on the Buccaneers defense. You have a lot of speed at your linebackers with Levante David and Devin White. So that'll be interesting. But to me, it's going to come down to, okay, how do the cornerbacks and secondary match up? I think that's going to be really what decides the game. And it's just hard to bet against what Patrick Mahomes has done in his career early on. It's incredible. As a quick aside, I find it a little ridiculous. We've seen a lot of things on ESPN and some of these other shows, which I don't even watch some of these daytime shows anyway, because they're just a lot of hot air being spewed. But when you see it on your timeline and you're watching, we've never seen anyone do what Patrick Mahomes is doing. It's like, well, yeah, Tom Brady also won 3 Super Bowls before he lost his first postseason game. So let's just, as much as I love Patrick Mahomes, and if he can stay healthy, and we'll see how the Chiefs we'll see if the Chiefs can recreate the longevity that the Patriots did for 20 years, which is not going to be so easy to do.
No,
because no one's done it before the Patriots. So we'll see. Mahomes is incredibly gifted, but everyone just wants to anoint someone the greatest. They want to be the first guy or whatever. I love watching Mahomes, but that whole narrative from a lot of the national media has just gotten really.
One national guy I saw on Twitter last week saying you can already make a case that Patrick Mahomes is the greatest NFL playoff quarterback of all time.
Yeah, I mean, what are we doing here? It just makes no sense.
It doesn't, and that's a good point. He's a great quarterback, but again, in his prime, I would have Tom Brady over
Steve,
Patrick
who do you think is going to win the game?
We'll see. What?
I was asking Steve, who we think he hasn't given his prediction yet.
Steve, prediction.
I thought you were going to leave me out.
No.
Oh, well, Brady is going to ignite all the haters because the Bucs are going to win 31-30 on a last-second field goal.
Oh, my gosh.
And everyone's going to say, it was because of the kicker.
Okay, I like it.
It was the kicker.
I like it.
He won because
Russ is going to be like, Andy Reid blew it again.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to share a couple of predictions. We've got our friend Chris. Chiefs win 34-28, and Robert Hildeberg Jr. Chiefs 31-20. And I hope you guys are wrong because I really want to see
if I'm the Bucs,
Tom Brady win.
I put a linebacker over Travis Kelce, and I try to beat him up.
Absolutely, Steve.
Play of the game.
Absolutely.
I don't care where the play's going. I'm taking a page out of the Patriots, with the first Super Bowl against the Rams.
Yep.
They beat up Marshall Faulk. I'm doing that against Kelce all game long.
Hell, the Patriots did it this year against the Chiefs early on. They were chipping Kelce all day.
Well, I mean, you go back to that game. That was a winnable game if they don't turn the ball over.
Yep.
Think about how that game was going. That was a winnable game. Not saying they were going to win, but it was a winnable type of game.
Okay.
Until they had that.
Okay, guys, to end the show, I'm going to force this person to make a decision. Claire, you need to make a decision now. Okay, stop being so torn.
You got 5 seconds, Claire. Hurry
up.
You
got 5 seconds, Claire. Make a decision. Make a decision, Claire. Please make a decision. And if you get it right, Claire, I still owe you a cookie. I'll send you a pizza too. Okay.
If you don't get your prediction in the next 5 seconds, you're banned for 2 weeks. That's it. Yeah, I know. That's it. Nothing.
Oh well, she always made it a point of letting Murph and I know when she got her prediction right because she the Patriots are going to win 16 games.
Okay.
She predicted them to win every week, and then when they did win, she was like,
Here it is. Here it is. Wait a minute. Here's the Claire prediction. Okay.
There you go.
Claire's going Bucks 25, Kansas City.
There you go.
Very Chris Berman, like 25.
There you go, Claire. Claire, you made a stand. I'm proud of you. You made a stand.
You got off the fence.
You got off the fence. Thank you for getting off the fence.
Usually Russ likes sitting on the fence, but he's forcing Claire.
I forced her off the fence. I'm proud of you, Claire. Okay. All right, great show, guys. And that was a fun way to end the show. We're gonna have more shows in the off season, but I'm glad that we did this today, and the three of us could get back together. It's been a long time, but I also want to mention this, that everything's going to be leading, Derek, to September. Do you know what September represents, Derek? Not just a new season. What does it represent?
I don't know, Russ. You tell me.
10, Derek.
10 years.
Derek, 10 years.
I know where you're going. I'm still waiting for my other anniversary gifts, by the way. You forgot.
Okay. Well, this September, Patriots 4th and 2 will turn 10.
That's
which
crazy.
is unbelievable. And we're going to have to do a special show. We'll have to get Damien involved. Claire, we'll have to get you involved too. We're going to get a lot of people involved.
Oh, and we have to have a special guest on that show. And if we have to go to his house and drag him by his ears, Mr. Ian Logue will make an appearance.
I think he's due. I mean, to say he's due is an understatement.
Yes.
Every time I bring it up to him, he makes convenient excuses.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I know when he sees this, my email will be going off tonight.
Yep.
But he's going to be on this show if we have to go to his house. And drag him out.
Okay. Because I'm glad that you said that. For the 10-year anniversary show, we need Ian on the show. That's a great point. All right. But guys, let's wrap this up. For Steve Balestrieri and Derek Havens, I'm Russ Goldman, and thank you, Claire, for your prediction. Thank you, as always, for watching and listening to Patriots 4th and 2, the official podcast of Pats